Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Chang, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science and spirituality are telling us that we are all connected, that we are all one. So what you do to another person, you're literally doing to another aspect of yourself. And when the world awakens to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Today's show topic is quantum forgiveness with David Hoffmeister. David is internationally known as a leader and teacher, one of the leading teachers of A Course in Miracles, non-duality, and New Thought teachings. He is a modern-day mystic, and he travels all over the world, and I am so honored to have him here with us today. Thank you, David, and welcome, David, to Awake to Oneness Radio.
Oh, thank you so much, Caroline. It's such a joy to be here, and it's such a great opportunity to talk about these deep teachings and this deep experience, because it really is that interconnectedness and oneness that seems to be what it's all about here.
Yes, thank you. And I was so honored. I sent you an invite to come onto the show, and you replied to me right away, even with your busy schedule. I know you travel a lot. You're just coming back from a conference in Las Vegas, and I know you're very busy, so I truly appreciate you taking time out, coming on to Awake to Oneness Radio. But I'd like you to, I know a little bit just from studying and listening to you on YouTube, but I'd like you to familiarize the listeners with who you are. Can you share your path, your journey spiritually on how you came to where you are today?
Yes. Well, I think like many, I was just curious, and I really believed that there was more to life than meets the eye, and this feeling that there has to be a deeper purpose in life, and I wasn't sure what it was, but I would say I look at my spiritual journey kind of getting a start in a conscious way back around the middle 1980s, when I began exploring the fields of psychology. Right around that time, I became interested in psychology, humanistic psychology, transpersonal psychology. I actually was taking a master's degree program at the University of Cincinnati in school psychology, and then as I started to have more and more questions about the mind, I started to have a lot of philosophical questions as well. So I took some classes in philosophy, and I was probing the underlying assumptions of really even of education, and starting to just go deeper and deeper into an exploration of what turned out to be consciousness and mind. And then after about 10 years of university full-time, including undergraduate and my graduate work, then I just had this strong feeling like my life purpose was about to come. It was almost like having a calling, like Mother Teresa had when she was on that train in India. And it just came to me very strong that I had been in academia searching for answers and questioning things there, but that I really needed to go a lot deeper, and I kind of felt this feeling that I had to really dive in on a spiritual path, and that somehow this pathway would appear to me and would be given to me instead of me just kind of doing a kind of leave no stone unturned reading of many books and many philosophies. So I stepped out of graduate school, and I really stepped out of academia, and the book A Course in Miracles came into my life toward the end of summertime, I believe it was, in 1986, out in La Jolla, California, when I was attending the Humanistic Psychology conference out there. So once I opened that book, it was almost just like a tsunami of love came over me, and I felt just like my life would never be the same, and it felt like I'd found my pathway in A Course in Miracles. And so I had a number of very synchronistic experiences in meeting people and kind of having my pathway kind of flash before my eyes when I was out there in California. And I returned back to the Midwest after quite a few very strong experiences out there, and then I began working with A Course in Miracles and actually reading it basically for about 8 hours a day for the first 2.5 years. So I kind of really immersed myself in it.
Wow.
And
yes.
It was more of using it like an oracle, too. It was not necessarily reading the 31 chapters in chronological order or the workbook lessons, which is also 1 through 365 in chronological order. I was actually drawn mostly to the manual for teachers at first, and then I would kind of pray or formulate a question in my mind, and I would open the book up like almost like one of the Greek oracles, and then I would start reading and get these amazing answers to my prayers and to my questions. So it was very practical for me in that way.
Wow.
And then it really launched me onto a journey that took me way, way inward. It took me into revelatory experiences where the 3 different times I was doing eye gazing with a friend of mine, and then the 3-dimensional world collapsed into 2 dimensions, and then this blazing light came just blasting through the 2 dimensions where the boundaries were, and then I was just engulfed and completely absorbed in this amazing abstract light of unspeakable love, and I had a number of other mystical experiences, huge synchronicities, things that I could hardly even believe were happening to me. It was like taking me on this journey into a whole new experience, something completely different than I'd ever had. And then I went through phases of basically being guided to travel. I think I would say after I was going to some Course in Miracles groups, and the Spirit started to speak through me with a lot of clarity and confidence and authority even, which was quite startling to someone who was very shy to have a presence starting to come through. And then as I continued to go to maybe some course groups and this and that, I came to a phase of travel that started around 1991 for me. And that was about 5 years after I had come across the Course, and already I was kind of following this guidance and really tuned into, you might say, the voice of Jesus. It was just so clear in my mind, leading me, guiding me, directing me where to go, what to do, what to say, basically how to live in all aspects of my life. And then there was a period of travel from around 1991 through 1996, which was very out of pattern for me because I really didn't even enjoy traveling that much, and to be going out and following guidance and meeting people and taking long trips for weeks at a time, sometimes several weeks at a time, 5 to 6 weeks, it just started to build up a trust in this intuition, this higher self, this voice within that was taking me and leading me even deeper still. And so I let go of, my job and all thoughts of career and all thoughts of my ambitions for the future and everything. And so that led me on a journey of trust, and I became so confident in the miracles that were coming through me and in this new way of being, of just simply listening and following. So that was a whole other phase for about 5 years where it was quite interesting just being guided where to go, meeting people. Many days I didn't even know where I would be sleeping at night. I didn't have any kind of organizational support or any kind of sponsors or anything other than my intuition and Jesus, the higher self. So that went on for about 5 years. And then I actually had some hermitage time, some periods of deep silence, alone by myself, working through more unconscious darkness, and began even more travels. After that period of time, it just kind of continued on. I was guided to start a nonprofit with a friend of mine called the Foundation for the Awakening Mind in the late 1990s, 1999. And then the next decade, it just continued opening up around 2003 with being guided to go overseas to Argentina, and then that just opened up a huge international travel schedule that basically continues on today, starting around 2003, in which it's been traveling around to 6 continents and I think it's 40-some countries, and just going where I'm invited to let the Spirit speak through me, and using movies, I can use Christian language, I can use spiritual language, psychological language, philosophical language, and an interest of both yours and mine, quantum physics, is now another, you might say the linguistics are coming through in all kinds of different ways, because I meet so many different people, and people come from so many different backgrounds, that the Spirit always seems to just come through in a very friendly, cordial way, but also using the metaphors, the language that they enjoy, and also Hollywood movies, because people love Hollywood all over the world. So that's kind of a synopsis of how it's happened, and formed the first Course in Miracles monastery in the world in rural Utah, and started bringing in materials like the Movie Watcher's Guide to Enlightenment, and lots of materials and tools that came through me to just help people, in their spiritual practice that can be engaging and fun.
Right. Well, it's so true what you say about the terminology, language, and I know that one of the things I always stress on this program is that everybody's path is different, it's not identical. There has been several guests that the Course in Miracles was the path for them that led them to their awakening. I myself am not a student of A Course in Miracles. I have attempted to read the book, and every time I don't get very far. But you were just talking about movies, Hollywood. My awakening came in 2007 from a movie, quantum physics movie. It was a science movie, What the Bleep. And it was just one, yes, it was just one sentence that Lynn McTaggart stated, and she was a guest recently on the show. The statement was, the biggest problem in the world today is the illusion of separateness. And when she said that, it just I can't even put it into words. The transformation within me from one sentence. So it was just one sentence that inspired my awakening from a quantum physics movie. And I had been, studying and reading metaphysical material, I say off and on, since the 70s. And I guess I started in my teens. And then I, just life would happen. And then I get back to it in the mid-'80s, and then life would happen. And I was married very young, but ended up being a single mom very young and had to raise 2 children on my own. So that my focus was life, them. And but every time before my awakening to oneness in 2007, the material I was reading, I found it very intriguing, but I had a hard time grasping the concepts because they were so different than how we're raised. I was raised in a Christian home, not very religious, but Christian, and was sent to Catholic school for a better education. And I know that when I was in Catholic school, the teachings, the dogma, did not resonate with me as a very young child, 4 and 5 years old. I wanted to say, no, this does not sound right. But at that time, this was in the early to mid 60s, and I was raised, children are to be seen and not heard, so I couldn't vocalize. I couldn't voice what I was feeling at that young age. I just had to kind of just take it, but it never resonated with me. So early in my adult life, I did start seeking truth because what I was being taught did not resonate with me as truth. And I found all these metaphysical books that were wonderful, but it was really hard for me to grasp their what they're teaching because I felt to me the missing piece was understanding oneness. Once I understood that, everything made sense to me. Books that I read that I didn't understand before, I would pick up and read them from cover to cover, like The Power of Now, which is one of my favorite books. When I first bought that book, which was before my awakening to oneness, I tried to read it, and I got through the first chapter, and I can't understand this, and I put it down. Then after my awakening, I picked it up maybe a year later, and I read the whole thing from cover to cover, and I was like, I get it. So that was a big understanding oneness and how it resonated with me as truth. This was a very large key to my awakening. And I've, been inspired to inspire others to awaken to that truth of oneness, and that's what inspired me to start this radio show a year ago. But I do like to, I always say I'm not preaching. I don't even call myself a teacher. I just say I try to inspire because I believe truth comes from within. And everybody's path is going to look different. No two paths are supposed to look the same. But we all come into this life experience to awaken on our own journey. So I love having conversations with you and and other guests like you that have awakened to that truth. Because every spiritual book I've read really speaks at the core of oneness, that we are all one. And then it blew me away to discover that science has actually proven that we are all connected. We are all interconnected. Everything is interconnected. And so it's so amazing. It's so amazing. So I'd love for you to share with the listeners, because you said that, you decided not to pursue your career and you just followed spirit. That's very bold and daring. And just share a little bit more of that with our listeners, because I know people are listening saying, how did he do that?
Yeah, Well, it's interesting, too, that I feel like on the journey, it is a journey of trust and becoming very intuitive. I would say becoming 100% intuitive. And I had been inspired by a lot of teachers that go way, way back. Even before the time of Jesus, Buddha talked about emptying the mind of concepts and thoughts. And that was very striking to me. And I find in the teachings of Jesus through the Bible and through A Course in Miracles that he's advocating the same thing, that to be free and have a still and free and open, tranquil mind is to be free of identification with concepts. So I would say when I look at kind of the guidance that I received pretty much early on with the Course was that it was all about me kind of unwinding from these self-concepts, because if we come to an experience like you had in 2007 where you have this powerful experience of oneness that's really beyond the words, then it's like it's hard to explain even to someone. Everything seems to stand still for a moment and everything's perfect and feels wonderful and whole and complete. And yet to sustain that, to have that be an actual sustained living experience without the typical emotional roller coaster ride of the human condition, then I do feel it is authentically about being trusting, so trusting that you live in the moment and you live from your heart, you live from within and radiate that love and light and oneness to everyone and everything. So initially, it's very practical too. I would say that it wasn't like I just decided, I'll just travel around, I won't have a career or anything. At the beginning, when I first came across A Course in Miracles and was listening to my internal voice and opening up, I had student loans to pay off and so forth. So I had a series of jobs that I was guided to where I would, they were all great lessons in forgiveness and letting go of judgments and grievances and expectations, and also practically paying off those debts. So it's not like it was a sense of just, okay, now just drop everything and abdicate on all kinds of agreements and responsibilities. It was more of a just listen and follow and notice where you still have points where you're hanging on to something or judging something or expecting something. Just notice those and be willing to let go and trust. So little by little, that just developed to the point where I felt like when I really gave my trust over to Spirit, I was letting go of my sense of future goals and ambitions, and I was just really saying, okay, I want you to show me peace of mind. Give me that experience of oneness in a consistent way. You know, take my state of mind, my consciousness higher and higher and higher so that I can behold this connectedness and this oneness with everyone and everything. And I think that's the prayer of my heart. So everything that came after that was almost, I just see it as an answer to a prayer.
Wow. That was so amazing, because it's so true what you said. Like for me, today, I occasionally, and I say it's only 99.9% of the time, I can really stay focused in the moment and really stay. For me, I keep my focus on what's real. Like this is an illusion. I try very hard not to get attached to stay present and not to get attached to the illusion. So I like to, when the illusion starts getting crazy, just step back, take a few deep breaths, and just observe it like it's a movie. You know, okay, I'm not going to get attached to this illusion 99.9% of the time, and I just float with the illusion, you know, moment by moment with a smile on my face. 99. But that 0.1% of the time, I'm still human. And I have those what I call isness days, meaning, okay, it is what it is. Let me remember. It gets a little harder for me to keep the truth at the forefront on those days. And actually, today is one of those days. It has been an isness day for me where I just all day I just have to remind myself of, from moment to moment, this is a dream of my own creation. So that's another big piece for me, is owning it. Is, okay, no one's creating this reality other than my higher self, which my higher self is the larger part of me. My higher self is not separate from me, and my higher self is always with me, and whatever happening in the moment is for my highest good. Even though I may not know why, I don't, in my human linear consciousness, I don't understand all of the whys. But I know that if it's happening for my highest good. So, and like I said, 99% of the time I can just smile and sail through it. But today it's been tears, and it's like, okay, I know, but but it doesn't. I have to say that when I do have those days or those moments, it doesn't even last the whole day with me. But when I have those moments, they don't last long. They do pass. And having great conversation like this with people that are awake, people that understand. So that's the other, I guess, in my personal reality, my physical reality, I don't have many people I can talk to that understand where I'm coming from spiritually. They'll look at me like I have two heads when I say, I know this isn't real. Okay, this is not real. It's like, what are you talking about? This is real. So
yeah, it's great.
Yeah, so when I do get that 1.1% of the time when I just feel, so it's kind of good that I'm doing the show today because I have you to help remind me, because sometimes I know that we're never alone. I know we have spirit guides, we have angels, we have loved ones that are in spirit that are always with us. So I know we're never alone. But sometimes in the physical, we can, a whole physical experience is to feel separated, even though we know in our heart we're not separated. So, but I love this, the title, Quantum Forgiveness. And that's part of what I had to deal with today, too, is because you know how you're forgiving and non-judging, and you're like, but why do you're forgiving that same person for the same thing over and over again? It's like, okay, when is that cycle going to end? Like, and I just decided today I just need to put distance between me and a particular person, not judging them, have nothing but love for them, but they're not seeing me and they're not hearing me. So if they're not seeing me and hearing me, it's like I'm, spinning my wheels. So I just need to sometimes just release, because discernment is also a big part. I know it discusses discernment in the course, and discernment is not judgment. It's just, okay, there you have to come to a point where you can't allow yourself to keep, taking the same quote-unquote abuse and keep forgiving the same offense over and over when sometimes you just need to put distance. I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it's very much the sense of, most of us were raised with this belief that, the linear world is real and people do things to us, and then we've even done things to other people that we don't like. we judge against ourselves. We're self-critical about memories of, I wish I'd been a little kinder, or did you have to say that, and why did that come out of my mouth, and so on and so forth. And so I think what we're doing is we're opening up and we're being convinced by the Spirit that what we thought was a grievance, or what we thought was a critical judgment, or even to use your example today, where there's somebody that they don't really seem to be seeing us and hearing us, they don't recognize us for who we are, then it's like these are just thoughts arising in the mind. And the ego is part of this. It's a belief that we're separate from our source and separate from each other. So it's always trying to keep a score and tally. Oh, did you see that? And well, they said this. They obviously don't care. Or did you see the way they looked at me? Or they didn't even let me talk. They wouldn't. All these different things. And so it's like keeping score, and it's just thoughts, like tallies of thoughts in our mind that are trying to convince us that we're separate from each other and from source. So to me, the big, that's where the trust comes in, because a lot of us are taught to plan for the future, and some of those plans don't come true. Sometimes we have ambitions and goals, and I can certainly imagine, like your life of being married at a young age and having 2 children, and then, probably you weren't thinking when that was all happening, you weren't thinking, I'll just be a single mom. These things happen, and we go, whoa, that's pretty sharp. And then we have to start to come into a trust that everything's working together for the good, that there's a higher plan that's learning us to build deeper and deeper trust with the Spirit. And as part of that detaching, I think that you mentioned, where when we're invested and attached in people, places, things, outcomes, we can project those attachments very easily into the future and imagine what kind of life that we want. And it just doesn't seem to go that way. We are disappointed when we go along to that model of trying to project out a future that we want, and then having things show up in a different form, in a different way than we thought. So I think it's beautiful that you are so transparent about that, and your experience in 2007 with the oneness, and then as you go through the day, I think you're really opening and living that quantum forgiveness experience, because Newtonian physics was teaching us that the world is outside of us, and that it does things to us that kind of shape and determine who we are. And quantum physics is saying, no, actually, the world isn't outside. It's just we're experiencing our consciousness, and if we start to clear our consciousness of these judgments and this negativity and this control, then we'll actually have a wonderful, beautiful experience of our oneness, and it's so beautiful that's available.
Okay. So kind of give me an example then. If there's someone in your reality where you're not holding any malice towards, and you're just loving on them, and you're speaking your truth as kindly and gentle, and they don't seem to be hearing you. They don't seem to see you. What's the best way to go about that with that relationship? And I understand what you're saying, that person's not separate, because the outside world is my creation. So it's coming from within. So I'm just curious. So what's the best advice there?
Well, to me, true quantum forgiveness is about being fully aware and fully conscious. So if I perceive something that doesn't seem to be completely in harmony, or doesn't even seem to be a recognition of that harmony, then I think one of the things that was missing in all of our theologies, and that, like you said, you didn't really resonate with the ones that you were growing up with, and I think a lot of us could say the same thing, is that there wasn't a lot of talk. Like, for example, I grew up in a Christian home too, and I grew up in Christianity, but nobody talked about the unconscious mind. They didn't tell us that, we had all these repressed kind of things, thoughts and emotions and everything that were pushed down. They would just call it sin or Satan. But it wasn't seen as, it was more like Satan was like this external force, fighting against God and the fallen angel and all that stuff. So I think where psychology and a lot of philosophies and some very deep, non-dual spiritualities come in, is they say, as long as you have unconscious thoughts and beliefs and assumptions, that those will get acted out all around you. So if you happen to see something that doesn't seem to be completely in accord with harmony and oneness, then I would say that that's the value of, we have mirrors. We human beings are mirrors to one another. And so are animals, and so is our environment. And so when we move through the day, seemingly through time and space, we get these mirrors. And I really enjoy quantum forgiveness in the sense that it's saying that it's not that people do wrong things. It's not that we can hold each other to the behaviors of being a human being. It's just that our vision has been very tiny and narrow when we see our brother and our sister as a body, because there's so much more. They're actually love and light, and we're just seeing a very small percentage of really a projection of the past, and we're like seeing a form of the past rising up again and giving us another opportunity to not be attached, like you said, to not hold people to the past, to see them brand new, clean and clear and fresh in this instant. So there's another beautiful forgiveness practice from this Dr. Hugh Len called Ho'oponopono. You probably have heard of it.
Yes.
And he basically does a lot of cleaning and clearing even before he would have a workshop or a seminar. He worked in a psychiatric institute and basically did so much forgiveness, internal forgiveness, that basically they had to shut down the whole unit because everybody got well after he forgave everyone in the unit. They had to basically he was out of a job. He did his forgiveness, his quantum forgiveness so well it was out of a job. But then he traveled around the world teaching what he'd done. I think it's the same for all of us, that if we have something that comes up that we don't even understand, or if it's just a little momentarily perplexing, then we can say, I'm still trying to see some meaning here, and the word illusion means not real, so I'm trying to see some meaning in the not real, and that's the only time we face a challenge.
Okay. So give us some practical tips in quantum forgiveness.
Well, practically speaking, I think that for anyone who's on this inner quest, and like you said, the truth is within, that I would say there's a lot of tools that we can use to use this mirroring. For example, one thing that I've used is movies. When I would watch television shows growing up and go to see certain movies, I would have emotions come to the surface.
Right.
And one of the practical tools I used was, there's a workbook lesson number 2 in A Course in Miracles that says, I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. So that was very helpful, because I would think, if I'm seeing something that's disagreeable or uncomfortable or upsetting, it's not that the movie or the relationship or the environment is doing it to me, my mind has given the meaning to everything that I perceive. And then it helps to actually, like Byron Katie talks about, have a turnaround, turn it around. In A Course in Miracles, it's not too many lessons later. It's only a few lessons later that you have these 4 lessons. I call them 5, 6, 7, 8. That was like a beautiful little formula for me, because lesson number 5 is I'm never upset for the reason I think, and then 6 is I'm upset because I see something that's not there. Then number 7 is I see only the past, and then number 8 is my mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. So instead of blaming a person, blaming the weather, blaming the government, blaming the, another country or terrorist or whatever, I love having a practice that says, no, I'm not upset for the reason I think. I'm just reading meaning into some kind of situation or event, and I'm upsetting myself with these thoughts that I'm holding on to, and I can let them go right now in this very instant. And to me, that's a tool, that's a practice that has been very effective in seeing that I actually don't have any problems. I just thought I did, but I just had thought problems going on there.
That is so amazing, because what you just said was so helpful for me, because most of the day, I was in the past. I was in the past, and I kept, like I said, I keep seeming like I'm forgiving this person for the same thing, so I'm in the past. And that was my biggest issue today, being stuck in the past. Truly was. And, wow, that is amazing. That is so true.
Yeah, it's like a broken record sometimes. And then we have one instant where we go, oh, that's silly. That's so silly that I would spend the time focusing my mind and my thoughts in that direction. But then we meet somebody or something reminds us, like, oh, yeah, that it doesn't have to be that way. I don't need to do that. And then we feel the ease and the peace coming in.
So true. Yes. No, it's so true. I definitely was not. The most of the day, I was not in the present. I was not being present. I was, and it was a beautiful day too to be present. Actually, I live in the Poconos, and April, the first half of April, went back to winter. March was spring, and then the first 2 weeks of April has been winter. So it was, I said, Mother Nature is playing an April Fool's joke, saying, you thought it was spring. As a matter of fact, last Saturday, it snowed all day. So so today was a beautiful day. The weather is mid-60s, almost in the 70s. The sun was shining all day. And all day, instead of focusing on the beautiful day, I am stuck in the past. That's what I admitted. I was totally stuck in the past today. So that is so true what you just said. And it is all my thoughts. Yeah. My thoughts were creating a problem where there wasn't.
Yeah, it's beautiful that you can realize that, because I think it often is the same with the weather, where they say, if it's cold and dreary or gray and rainy, or that some people say it's a bad day, and that's just our thoughts that tell us that too.
Right.
I'm out here in Utah and just got back from Las Vegas, and before that Australia, which the weather, the climates are completely reversed down under in Australia. But I had very similar things, just driving through snow. I think if I look out my window here now, I still see some snow still around. So it's April snow instead of April showers. But it's great that we can start to realize that even when we start to give causation to the world in terms of weather patterns or or frowns instead of smiles, or negative terms instead of positive terms, that we're still putting a causation out into the world. And I think what I've enjoyed about quantum forgiveness is it says, well, the Spirit's like, no, you have a very powerful mind, and you have to watch your mind and be attentive to it. Use discernment and use your clarity and your wisdom to rinse your mind of these meanings that you've given to the world. Because in the end, the truth is within us, and as we drop deeper and deeper into that love and stillness, then it doesn't so much matter what the appearances are anymore. It's when we don't give the meaning to them from the past, then it's like we have a rebirth experience, and we're happy and joyful, and we're carefree, and it's almost like childlike. We live more in a childlike wonder instead of telling the world what it should be. We're just kind of we're very easygoing, like you said, easygoing, lighthearted, and we can kind of float through the day.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. And you really just made me open my eyes to see that I was not doing that today. And I do. Like I said, 99% of the time, that's me. I'm just floating through my day. I'm just smiling. I'm singing. But today I just kind of went back in the past and drug it with me. So my question is then, what is discernment? Because I know that we should never judge another. So what is discernment? Well,
to me, I think that discernment shows me not that I should stop judging or that I've got a bad habit of judging, but it starts to show me the impossibility of it. It's like I like you. I was so touched by that movie, What the Bleep Do We Know, when it first came out, and then you might remember they did a sequel to that called Down the Rabbit Hole.
Yes, I have both.
And I remember you have them both. I actually was watching that second one, Down the Rabbit Hole, and I believe one of the physicists in there was saying something about, he was talking about quantum physics, and he was talking about, he said, he put out the question, what is the marital status of the number 5? And I remember when I heard that, I said, man, that's the funniest thing I've heard, because the number 5 doesn't have a marital status.
Right.
But what I started to realize was, oh my gosh, what if everything in the world I perceive is kind of like that? What if I'm trying to ask questions about something that I've already got an assumption about? Like, for example, if I'm talking about relationships and even marriages and so on and so forth, and I've got a set of assumptions that are just beliefs that I'm holding, then I really wouldn't know what the marriage really is, for example, like union. I always think marriage means union. And yet a lot of marriages, there's fighting, there's disagreements, there's power control struggles and arguments around finances. That doesn't sound like union to me. That sounds like anything but union and oneness.
Right.
So I started to really see that maybe, just maybe, that I've convinced myself that I really know what's going on, but I really don't. And so instead of, I would say, in answer to your question, discernment to me is starting to come to this, I don't know, I can't understand and figure out the world, but I can learn to experience it and watch it from a very peaceful, loving perspective. And to me, that's what discernment's about. Not that we need to break bad habits, but we just need to see, oh my gosh, I was completely mistaken about everything that I thought was happening. I didn't have all the facts. I didn't have the big picture. And that's very humbling.
Yes. So true. That is so true too. Like I say, a lot of times I will do that. I'll remind myself that it is an illusion, a dream of my own creation, and I was like, okay, let me just sit back and watch it in a peaceful state, and not react to it at all. So I understand what you're saying there, which is so true. And it helps being present, to be in the present moment. And the past is an illusion anyway. It's not real. The future hasn't gotten here yet, and you're actually creating your future in this present moment. So that is so true, to that quantum forgiveness. That's amazing. I love that, because it was perfect that we are speaking about that tonight because of my day today. So that
I love how that works.
Really,
it's like we get the help that we need just in a very natural way when we're open to it, and I love that. And we all want to have very loving, cordial, friendly communications. It's so loving to be able to be respectful and be truly listening. And sometimes I've thought, if I see something, if somebody sends me an email or says something, and if the first thought is like, that's not very nice, or that's pretty critical, then I'll just take a pause and I'll say, now let's see, if the universe is always trying to bless me every moment, then maybe there's a message here. Maybe I don't need to see this in this way. I can just say, something is trying to tell me something important here, and it involves grace, and it involves love and blessing. And so just that little pause sometimes helps me to just say, I can appreciate that this about myself, or what I need to pay attention to, or what I need to take heed of. And so I see it, the blessings can come through in that way too.
Wow. Well, I think I kind of have a little example of that. When I first started this show, most of my friends are, I would say, fundamental Christians, which I love. I still love them. They're still my friends. I still love them. I got one email from a friend that was saying that I might, and I noted that she used the word might. I might be, with my show, I might be leading people to hell, basically, And I was like, but I said, oh, she said might. She didn't say I was.
That's good. That is a good example.
yeah. She said might, and I did not respond in a negative fashion at all. I said, well, our beliefs somewhat differ, and I have the utmost respect for your belief, the utmost. And I'm really just, with my show, I'm just trying to spread love. The golden rule, do unto others as you would want done unto you. So it was my response to her, and reading it, I kind of chuckled reading it. I didn't get offended at all. I just, I was like, okay. And I responded very nicely, and she and I are still friends to this day. So, so.
That's a beautiful example, because I feel like we can't split hairs over beliefs. It's like the love that we truly are, the oneness that we really are, it's so far beyond belief. It's an actual experience. And so I love that when I travel around and people talk to me and they open up, and I really don't care whether they believe in God or they don't, or they call themselves an atheist or agnostic or believer or whatever, scientist. I'm there to have a loving connection with everyone I meet, and to feel that experience of that connection. And I made a decision years ago. I thought, I'm not going to let words or beliefs ever come between me and anyone. So I was one of those people in the household when I was growing up. The Jehovah's would come to the door, and the family would kind of run to the back of the house and close the door, and I'd open the front door and say, come on in.
Yes,
and,
I do that too.
Isn't that fun to be welcoming?
I make tea for them.
Yes, I know.
Yes,
we don't
yes,
have to push anybody away just because of their words or what they believe in. Because, imagine that Buddha, Jesus, God, they're not going to turn anybody away because of certain words. And and it must be that the spirit is stronger than beliefs. So I really like to keep that in mind with all my interactions.
Exactly. Yes, very true. I always say I'm never going to debate a belief. I have the utmost respect for whatever you believe. That's, because I believe people should go within, look within to find your truth, and then live your truth. So whatever your truth is, live it. And I do the same thing. Jehovah's Witnesses come by, I invite them in, I make them tea, I sit with them, I listen. I do.
That's beautiful.
I do beautiful. Share. I do say to them, I share right up front that I personally don't put on, quote unquote, a label of any religion. I don't call myself any one particular religion, but I have respect for all religions. So I tell them that up front, and then I welcome them in. I make them tea, and they read, and I listen, and it's all good.
Lovely.
Yes, it's
That's
always
lovely.
a very pleasant exchange.
That's great. You can have a cup of tea with anyone who comes in and who's sharing, just taking the time to share this moment with you. It's so beautiful that you're so welcoming.
Right, and I've heard you say, love is all inclusive. That is so true. Love does not exclude anyone, anything. Love includes everything, and oneness includes everything. Because that was the other question I was getting from some of my Christian friends were, what is this, a new oneness? What is this, a new religion? It's like, no. No, because to put a label on it, to call it a religion is separating it from something else. So, no, oneness is exactly that. We're all one, and we're all one, just not just all of us humans, but we're one with Mother Earth and the animals and the trees and the plant life, everything. It's all connected. It's all one.
Yeah.
In fact, we're one with the universe. We think of just this marble, this blue marble, but there's plenty of planets, and those are just our distant cousins. We're all
Yeah, it's great because it's like the oneness you're talking about is definitely not a theology, and I think that's the thing when people start to equate philosophies and religions with various different theologies, then right away it gets into differences. But I'm always telling people, to me, that true religion is inner peace. In that way, I see all these different pathways to God, and they have their own different rituals, and they have their different beliefs and so forth, but the experience that everybody's aiming for is this inner peace. And so to me, that's like the hub in the middle of the wheel. All the spokes lead to oneness, and they all lead to an experience. And when I call it peace of mind, usually people smile and they go, well, yeah, because that's what their religion is aimed at. Whatever they believe in, they want peace, and I think we all want peace deep down.
Peace, right. And Jesus says the peace that surpasses all understanding. When I heard that before I understood oneness, I was like, I'm not. How can you be peaceful? And this is going on, and that is going on. But after I understood oneness, I was like, the peace that surpasses all understanding. I get it. You can be peaceful when you know the truth of oneness. When you know there is nothing but love, you can be peaceful and just sit back and watch the movie. Okay? Interesting movie. And then the other part, not the movie, is a movie of your own creation. So, okay, I'm creating this movie. Let's sit back and enjoy it. That is.
Well, you
so
certainly picked a beautiful a beautiful name for your show. I have to say that was one of the things that caught my eye right away, Awaken to Oneness, because I thought, what a lovely name for a show, because it tells it right up front. It's who you are right in the title. And sometimes people come up with all kinds of titles, but I really enjoyed your title of your show.
Well, thank you. Spirit led me to start an internet talk radio show, and I had no clue how to do it. I just Googled how to use, and then I found Blog Talk Radio, and it was very inexpensive to get an account with Blog Talk Radio. It's like, okay, I could do that. And then, but in one of the tips, Blog Talk Radio said, well, you want your title to portray what your show is about. And I was like, and it just popped, okay, Awake to Oneness. And I like the number 2. So I used the number 2 instead of the word 2, and I was like, okay, that's it. And it just it says the whole mission in the name. So I can't believe an hour has already gone. I am totally blown away, because it seems like we've been talking for 5 minutes, and you have truly helped me, because you just made me see how I was just being in my head today, in the past, and not in the present, and not just and really creating. It was a creation. All the problems that I thought were problems were just created in my mind, just thoughts in my mind that I can let go at any time. So
that's a blessing.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Is there something you'd like to share of upcoming events? I know you are extremely busy. You travel a lot. Was there something you'd like to share with our listeners? Coming up in your near future?
Yeah, in near future, I'm going to go to San Francisco on May 22nd, and I'm going to be at the Community Miracles Center just speaking at their morning service, and then doing a workshop from 1 to 5. And then the following month in June, there's Gary Renard, my friend who wrote The Disappearance of the Universe, and Maria Felipe, and my friends Craig, and a number of teachers, Dove Fishman, that we're going to be in Estes Park in Colorado. And basically we're going to just have a wonderful time there up in the mountains. And so that's another thing. And then I think also for some of your listeners, actually, I have a website that's called davidhoffmeister.com, and I think if you go there, you can actually check out Quantum Forgiveness, because it's a short book, but it uses like 7 different movies to basically help you go through movie watching and come into that experience. And I believe if you put at the end of the davidhoffmeister.com, if you just put / and free gift, there is a free gift available as well for people that there's ways to get some excerpts from the book, and you can actually get a taste of that. So that's, I just want people to have a very happy, joyful life. Yes,
so true. I don't know if you're aware that David Dove Fishman, he and I are now co-hosting. We met on Facebook just a few weeks ago, and he asked me to call him, and I called him, and within a few hour conversation, he's like, I want to co-host a show with you. And I was like, yeah, sure, great. So we are co-hosting a show every Monday, and the name of that is The Truth of Oneness Within. I also came up with that title. So we're co-hosting an hour-long show that airs at 1:30 on Awakening Together Radio. every Monday at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. So yes, that Dave is. I tell him he's a brother from a Jewish mother. Yes.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yes, so wonderful. Well, thank you, David, so much for being. I have so many wonderful Davids in my life, so it's great.
It's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dove's a good friend of mine, and I just love all that you're doing, and am just very grateful for your presence in my life.
Thank you, and I'm extremely grateful for your presence in my life and sharing your wisdom on Awake to Oneness Radio. So I will let you have a very great weekend, and thank you so, so much.
Thank you. Many blessings.
Many blessings. Good night.
Good night.